Marvel's Wolverine is not the easiest guy to get along with. He prefers to work alone, he's had a sketchy past, and he's just a big old grump. Because of that, he has made a few rivalries with other superheroes. Today on Top 10 Nerd, we're gonna talk about 10 superheroes who hate Wolverine. I'm Adam Andrews, and let's jump in. Kicking off the list at number 10 is the Hulk. The first rivalry Wolverine ever had in comic book history is with the Incredible Hulk. The Hulk is basically just a ball of increasingly strong muscle, and he just gets more and more strong the longer the fight goes on and the more mad he gets. He can dish out basically untold amounts of damage. As for Wolverine though, he can take untold amounts of damage, almost always coming back thanks to his incredible healing factor. Their rivalry began with the Incredible Hulk number 181, when Wolverine was first introduced to comics, coming in between the Hulk and Wendigo. Then in the Incredible Hulk number 340, Wolverine takes on the Grey Hulk, going into a berserker rage, ripping into the Hulk like never before. It's awesome to see, that is, until the Hulk heals and makes Wolverine one with the ground. Then there was World War Hulk X-Men, and I mean, it's World War Hulk. Wolverine gets completely hogwashed here. There was also Savage Wolverine number 5, when the Hulk and Wolverine randomly encounter each other in the Savage Land, and Wolverine actually takes the win here, using his claws to give Hulk one hell of a headache, before the Hulk comes to, and then gets eaten by a big old fish. And that's just regular Wolverine and Hulk. These two have had so many encounters throughout the multiverse, we could probably do a whole video on just that. Number 9, Cyclops. Wolverine has had quite the luck with the ladies over his incredibly long history, but despite that, he couldn't seem to let one girl go. That girl was Jean Grey. Jean Grey has pretty consistently declined the advances of our short temperamental Canadian in favor of her boo, Scott Summers, the consistent leader of the X-Men, Cyclops. They just make for a better couple despite Scott kind of being the worst all the time. And Wolverine? He just can't stand that fact. He is pretty consistent even to the point of being problematic with his advances towards Jean despite her constant rejections. But Cyclops is not a pushover. He is a pretty strong-willed leader and not someone who takes behavior like Wolverine's lightly, which has led to many clashes between the two over the years. The pretty immature rivalry over their teammate, which has gotten bloody on way too many occasions, starts as a basis, but over their history, these two have butted heads over more important things. For example, there was a pretty serious difference of opinion in how the X-Men and the students of the school they are an integral part of should be led, causing the Schism story. Or there was the whole X-Men vs Avengers thing. More recently though, the three mutants seem to be in some kind of weird throuple, so that's interesting. Number 8, The Thing. When thinking of characters who have a rivalry, I think The Thing often gets forgotten about. Everyone knows The Thing is a big old softy underneath his incredibly powerful exterior. But he and Wolverine? While these two do get along for the most part, they've got some history. During a fight that broke out between the two in Fantastic Four number 374, Wolverine lost control going into a bit of a rage, and he slashed Ben across the face with his adamantium claws. Normally, the Thing's rocky exterior can tank most damage, but adamantium is the strongest natural metal in the Marvel Universe, so this attack from Wolverine actually did quite a bit of damage, disfiguring the face of the Thing. The Thing is already conscious of the fact that he has a rather monstrous look, but despite that, he still felt the need to hide his injury to his face, along with the fact that he needed to protect it in order for it to heal. So to do both of those things, he was forced to wear a helmet while he recovered. It was a whole thing. He continued wearing the Doctor Doom-like helmet until Fantastic Four number 385, when it finally healed, and in Fantastic Four number 395, the Thing even forgave Wolverine and the heroes began to move past it. But you never really forget someone who disfigured you. I wouldn't know, but you never do. Number 7, Namor. If there's one thing Wolverine hates, it's probably when someone has a bigger ego than he does. And Namor, the king of Atlantis in the Marvel Universe, is one such person with one hell of an ego. Most of the time, he is just a smug jerk who is trying to put us all under the ocean. Other times, he's one of the hardest hitting teammates to have on your side. Namor plays it pretty fast and loose with the whole allegiance thing, and that's mainly because his allegiance is to Atlantis over almost anything else. Wolverine just ain't a fan of this guy, and as such, Namor ain't a fan of him either. Putting two guys with massive egos in close proximity to each other is never really a good idea. Fortunately for Logan though, I think Namor is still the more powerful of the pair. Fight me in the comments. Number 6, Punisher. My whole reason for this point on this list comes from one fight in 2 issues of a comic. In the early 2000s, Punisher faced off with Wolverine in Punisher number 16 and 17. Essentially, the Punisher found himself in the crosshairs of Logan when he needed to buy himself some time without Wolverine getting in his way. To do this, Punisher blows off Wolverine's face with a bit of buckshot in Punisher number 16. Thanks to his insane abilities though, Logan is still standing with his face already starting to heal over his exposed adamantium skull. So, obviously, that didn't buy the Punisher much time at all. Instead, in Punisher number 17, Frank Castle makes things just a little bit more below the belt. Literally, as he wiped Wolverine's gonads off of the playing field in a similar way to how he took off Wolverine's face. But of course, even this won't stop the mutants, so Frank Castle resorts to even more drastic measures. Needing the means to give himself a day or two before Logan will start coming after him again, the Punisher decides to use a steamroller to slowly but completely flatten Logan. And that's all I got. Number 5, Emma Frost. Wolverine and Emma Frost have been through plenty of tough times together. Being both mutants, they do have a lot in common and understand each other's struggles. Hell, they're both heroes with some questionable pasts, so of course they can relate to each other. But Emma was still originally a villain, and she has often been a rival to Jean Grey, making her life and her relationship with Cyclops more and more difficult, which, funnily enough, doesn't sit well with Wolverine. Only he can disrupt that relationship. Okay? When Jean sacrificed herself, Cyclops and Emma Frost made their weird telepathic relationship thing a real official relationship really soon afterwards. Logan immediately found this disrespectful to Jean's memory, because it was. While it seems to be water under the bridge now, Logan isn't really the type of person to let things go, and it's still highly likely that he resents Emma for the pain that she helped cause someone he loves. Jean. Also, Logan has to still be holding on to at least a little bit of animosity against Emma Frost thanks to her past with the Hellfire Club. In a more recent comic, Wolverine even comments on the fact that he and Emma wouldn't ever consider each other friends, but they're civil. So maybe hate isn't the right word, but it's not completely wrong either. Number 4, Venom. James Howlett and Eddie Brock have a lot in common. Both have bonded with the Klyntar symbiote known as Venom, both are incredibly popular anti-heroes known for brutal tactics when dispatching evil. Wolverine and Venom have also crossed paths and fought on more than one occasion. The Claws and Webs story, Venom Tooth and Claw, 2018's Venom Annual number 1, and Wolverine Exit Wounds number 1 all show us examples of these two anti-heroes coming to blows. And more often than not, despite the physical strength disadvantage, Wolverine usually comes out on top, usually humiliating Venom. But at the same time, while it might seem like Wolverine and Venom despise each other given the number of times they fought, it was recently revealed in a Venom Annual that Eddie Brock owes Logan for putting him on the path towards becoming an anti-hero. The issue flashed back to one of the earliest meetings between the two after Wolverine had taken victory over Venom. Logan relates how Professor Charles Xavier once gave a monster like him a chance to be better, and that he was now giving Venom the same thing, which helped to kickstart the anti-hero thing. So maybe they don't actually hate each other, but probably a little bit. Just a little smidge. Number 3, Deadpool. Look, these two may have worked together countless times in Weapon X and on X-Force, but that doesn't mean the Merc with the Mouth is a huge fan of Wolverine. Deadpool probably hates Wolverine more than anyone else on this list, but it's not for the same reason as anyone else here. It's actually because of jealousy. And in my eyes, I think that's born out of admiration, so if anything, maybe Deadpool actually loves Wolverine. But how do I know this? Well, in one storyline during Daniel Way's run, the two spent 3 or 4 issues trying to take one another off of the board, and that isn't necessarily out of character for either of them. But it was after Wade captured Wolverine that he starts to talk, revealing how much he actually hates the guy. Wade secretly feels that most people see him as just a poor man's version of Wolverine, so he continually has to prove that he's not that, but something better. Deadpool is one of those characters that we rarely see be serious, but this time I actually kind of felt it. I think he was serious. Number 2, Beast. For the longest time, I actually thought Beast was one of the better heroes out there, but that's because I didn't know Beast apparently. Beast is a Dr. Hank McCoy is one of the 8 smartest people in the world, and being smart in comic books seems to be a pretty easy path to being morally dubious. Don't get me wrong, Wolverine isn't a Boy Scout by any stretch of the imagination, but he still holds his morals. Wolverine and Beast were actually friends. Beast stuck with Wolverine during the Schism event, and he was also on the side of the Avengers with Wolverine during the Avengers vs. X-Men. But despite that, in order to deal with external threats to the new mutant nation of Krakoa, Beast has taken a position as the chief of the intelligence intelligence agency X-Force, which has almost completely cost him his morality. McCoy has chosen some questionably authoritarian actions to guarantee the Krakoan sovereignty, like sabotaging the country of Terra Verde, squirreling away funds to open a space station prison, and interrupting one of Wolverine's resurrections to attach an obedience collar to send Wolverine on clandestine operations, all of which was kept secret from the rest of X-Force. This ticked off Wolverine, which in turn ticked off Beast even more. Beast sent Wolverine on a mission so that he would be captured for an auction that Hank attended, and then he literally showed Wolverine to the afterlife in order to resurrect Logan again in a primitive state and turn him into Weapon X. Then Beast sent him on more missions. Beast has become a literal villain, and he just keeps getting worse and worse as time goes on. But finally, in at number 1, Spider-Man. I can't lie, it's really fun to see Spider-Man and Wolverine work together, because you've got one of the most quippy, lighthearted, inspiring, and morally positive heroes teamed up with one of the most grumpy heroes in the Marvel landscape. The thing here is that while these two may clash, they are almost like brothers. I think of it like Wolverine as a big brother and Spider-Man as a little brother. Spider-Man and his snarky ways has a knack for getting under the skin of Wolverine's short temper. Well, he hits on MJ, and he's a little too stabby for Peter Parker's no-killing preferences. They've clashed a few times, but one takes the cake. It should be obvious, but you don't ever dare insult Mary Jane Watson to Peter Parker's face. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 522, Peter is awoken with a call about a newspaper article claiming that Mary Jane has an entanglement with Tony Stark. It's not true, obviously, at all, and actually it's a setup by a different villain, but Peter gets out of his bed in Avengers Tower and goes looking for his wife. Along the way, he runs into Wolverine in a room with a very lovely high-up view of the city. Now, Logan decides to start going on about how Mary Jane messed up big time, and after a warning from Peter to stop, he decides to not do that and comments on her lack of brains. This lovely little comment gets Wolverine tossed through unbreakable glass from the penthouse level of Avengers Tower without so much as a second thought from Peter Parker. And it's great. But that's all she wrote. Thanks so much for watching here on Top 10 Nerd. I'm Adam Andrews. I'll catch you all on the Flippy Flop, and until then, peace out, nerds.